I like to use climbing vines on my layout. Vines like kudzu and Virginia creeper add more realism, because you're going to find these things out in rural areas where you don't have gardeners taking care of the landscape. Another good use for climbing vines is to cover mistakes. Those of you who saw my clinic on making wood tunnel portals will remember that I was really unhappy through here with the way the wood joined. Instead of tearing it out and doing it all over again to get it better, I just put in some climbing vines, and now nobody can see that bad joint that I had. So this is another reason to use kudzu. Finally, if you find yourself with an overwhelming amount of rock face, as I have with my new layout, you can use the climbing vines to add a dash of color. As you can see here, as this road goes up the side of this mesa, I have all of this rock face, and I need to break up all of that color with a color that's a little brighter, and I choose green because, as you can see here, I've placed two different colors of green along the rock face, and also of course on my tunnel over here, and I've completed it on this portion of the road that runs up to what will eventually be a cucumber farm on the top of my top of this particular part of the mountain. I'll go ahead now, and I'm going to let you watch me cover this section of the rock face with kudzu, or if you're in arid areas, it might be Virginia creeper or other creeping vines that you have in the area where you are modeling. The material that I use for climbing vines is by JTT Scenery Industry. Here's the number for the light green coarse fiber foliage cluster, number 95057, and in the medium green it's 95058. I have both of them stored in this can, and although this looks like one great big clump, it's actually some layers folded together. Okay, so you'll need to unfold those. I'm going to start with this color, and the idea is to pull it apart, pull the clusters apart, and the fibers that run through it will hold the clusters together, and it gives a great imitation of climbing vines. Plus you can see the rock face and other things underneath it. But when you're working with this, you'll notice down here you get pieces fall out. Here's some in the can here. Don't throw those out, those make good weeds. When you're working on placing your climbing vines, whether it be kudzu or Virginia creeper or whatever, think in triangles. Use a scissor to cut. If you try to get a straight edge by pulling it, you're going to regret it, because you're going to need the scissors to cut the fibers. So you see how I have a triangle here, and now I'll go to the layout and show you how we place it. We place it in two different ways. Okay, the glue I'm going to be using is Crafter's Pick, the ultimate glue. It's thick and sticky, and it dries clear. Kudzu is going to grow from this green area where there is grass, and it will grow down like this. It will also grow in this green area here. It will grow up over this, and it will send out its tendrils out this way. Okay, now you're not going to have, as you go up the hill here, you're not going to have a lot of dirt that's anything but hard packed, so you're not going to have much in the way of kudzu here. You're going to be using small pieces here. Large pieces, though, can hang down because you see this green area on top, that is grass, and once it starts growing there, it will run down the wall. So that's how we're going to do it, and I will take this piece right here. You see the triangle, you see how it's long here and comes down to a point. Well, that would be placed right there. So to get it to stay there, I'll take my glue and just put dabs of it at the length of my piece, and put a dab down here to hold the point of the triangle against the top, or against the wall. Alright, you see how that runs down like that? And there's my first piece. Now I will continue to place pieces, little pieces down here. So I'll grab off, here's a piece that's left over from that chunk I had. Now this one's going to be shorter. As you can see, I have just a small piece. Put a little glue right here. There's some greenies there. And a little dab up here to hold it. Try to keep the glue off your fingers if you can. And that's all there to it. You can use as much as or as little as you want. Try to keep in keeping with the area you're modeling. If you're on the northwest coast or the east coast in this century, there's going to be kudzu covering almost everything in the rural areas. Whereas if you're in the southwest, you may not want as much because it's a little drier and the growing vines aren't as prolific. So I will continue to put these on, running up the wall here and also down in here. But again, remember, the kudzu starts growing in an area where there's grass. It can't grow much, or the seeds can't take root in areas here. And this is a hard dirt-packed road, so there's none there. There's none on here, so nothing should be hanging down here, only growing up from the bottom. And that's how I will continue to apply my kudzu, and I will show you the finished product. I finished placing the kudzu from the grass on top down and from the grass on the bottom up. And you can see it makes a much more interesting landscape. I've also put some around this concrete buttress, and if you can see in the foreground there, you can see little pieces of weed, and of course all that came from the little chunks of foliage that fell off when I was stretching the fiber. So this section is complete, and now that the white has dried, you can see how much different, how much more realistic, and how much more pleasing to the eye it is to have the green interrupting all of that rock face. It's turning out exactly the way I wanted it. It's very easy both for me, and I'm sure you'll find it easy too. Thank you for watching my clinic, and I hope you've learned something.